The church accepts progress every time it can no longer prevent it. Coming up next on Pastor Bob Daily. Well, that's a pretty big statement, isn't it? The church accepts progress every time it can no longer prevent it. You know, folks, that's a very true statement. Unfortunately, sometimes fortunately. But the church has changed a lot, actually, in the years that I've been alive. Almost 63 years. And I remember the days, here we go, indulge me. I remember the days when women wore dresses to church, men wore suits to church, and that's the only way you would appear in church. And I remember the days when my mom used to make my suits, and we made all of our suits, and we dressed up to go to church. Everybody dressed up. I remember the times when people first started wearing, women started wearing slacks to church, or men started omitting the ties and just wore, the suit jacket and a nice shirt. And we've definitely progressed from there. I remember the days when if a woman wore the color red, it meant that she was, a little bit of a seedy character. Women didn't wear red, especially to church. I remember the days when, there's so many things, when we sang hymns instead of choruses. Choruses were for Sunday school or for youth groups, but hymns were a staple of the church service and just something that we all did. There's a lot of things that have changed, and historically, even in my lifetime, white churches that didn't allow black people to attend services, have changed, obviously. Some of those things that are great changes for the church. But then there have been some others. When I was growing up, if a Christian man and woman lived together before they got married, that was not even heard of, not thought of. Anybody who did that would have been considered a non-Christian. And yet it seems fairly commonplace today. And it shouldn't be. Just had to throw that in. Because it's a biblical thing. And there are some things that are biblical that I think we ought to pay attention to. I remember growing up and being afraid of people who smoked, because smoking was one of those horrible things, and you went to hell for smoking. And now I realize you don't go to hell for smoking, you just smell like you've been there. Drinking. Christians did not drink at all. Nothing. And, to this day I haven't. It's just the way that I am personally, and I don't have a vendetta against it by any means, but it's so much accepted today that I have friends that mostly on Instagram, whatever, just post pictures of their beer and their times drinking. And I think we've gone from not including it and thinking that it was a bad thing to almost glorifying it, which I think is the other extreme that's not so good. Nothing causes more deaths on the highway than alcohol. Nothing splits up homes more than alcoholism. And so I think sometimes we really do cause our brothers to stumble as well. Now, I don't believe you should avoid drinking. I just think you have to put it in perspective. Smoking. I know some cultures, Christian cultures, where the young people all smoke. Everybody does. It's almost a peer pressure thing. Everybody gets involved, which is kind of silly, isn't it? Especially when we now have all of the conclusive proof that you will probably die from it. Lung cancer. It isn't just a maybe, it's a probably. So all of these things keep changing. We keep going through all of these changes in the church, and not all of them are good, but we change. We get tired of fighting. We get tired of looking in the other direction, and we begin the process, honestly, of just accepting things and going from there. So it's really important that we understand that there are some things that are good to change, some things need to stay the way they are because they're biblical. I'm not going to count on which is which, but the church really is responsible, honestly, to be godly, to be biblical, and to do the right things, no matter what the winds of change are around us. Just my food for thought for the day. God bless you. Have a great day.